on to old business. What do we have under old business? Anybody? Anybody want to talk about anything we talked in the past? No? Well, it's been 2 months. Well, last time we met was in December of last year, right? Okay, let's move on to new business. Anybody have anything they want to bring up on new business? Anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one of the concerns that I have, and I don't know whether to call it new business or old business, is some of us went to the facility meeting last time around, and they brought an agenda item up to that committee in reference to going back to hiring a manager personnel to be able to oversee the high school project. Of course, we're not allowed to ask questions to some of the board members and stuff. I showed some concerns, and I know some of the members that were there approached me and asked me some concerns of what was going on, because that particular item was never brought to us for consideration or any recommendations or anything. I know that's got to go before the board next, but even taking it to the facility committee, I think that it should have been brought to us, or at least let us know. That was a big surprise to me when that was brought up at that meeting.
I heard some other members that shared the same concern that you had. They showed up to that meeting, the facilities meeting, and said, how come we had never heard about this construction manager? Maybe you guys want to articulate that reason to us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. What I will share with you is what I know from the past and what I know as of now in the future. Originally, I know that this committee was put together to oversee and respond and help and work with us and on the administrative side of overseeing a $135 million bond issue, which deals with the two elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, the HVAC air conditioning systems, the re-roofing projects, the windstorm projects, the intercom system projects, the fire alarm system projects, and we were going to keep y'all into the loop about how all of that stuff was going to be connected with that $135 million bond that was voted on by the people of this town. And the scope of what was brought at the facilities meeting was having a construction manager or managers oversee some of these building projects, because what you're looking at is myself coming out of curriculum. You've got Oscar here by himself at CETAR, who is helping, and right now with just the three of us and me still dealing with the PACE cluster in waste are the only people that are on top of looking at the projects that are being built. And if we hadn't even started on this process yet with the 5 schools, then we were looking at the possibility of having these construction manager positions that would report to us, that would be on site at the construction projects, that would not be part of that $135 million bond. Okay, and what we're here to talk about is the $135 million bond. Now this is aside that. And what we were looking is having somebody that could report to us, that we could go and oversee, that are at the projects, that would actually work for us as a district, so that when we are meeting, that we can talk about the actual bonds and the buildings and everything that we're doing that's taking place. We'll have another set of eyes that will come to report to you that we're doing everything to make sure that we're in line with what we agreed upon when we went out and sold these bonds, and that we are keeping our word, that we are going to have the best facilities in the state of Texas, because we're going to keep them that way. And it was just our superintendent and our thought together that this was something that we could have that would help initiate the process for us overseeing all the projects that are going on. Oscar, is there anything else you need to add?
We do have 2 community sectors, but they're not national.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Just that in addition to the provisions you were talking about, our managerial and then the administrator, Mr.
Pacheco is my construction manager, he's my main assistant. I have another vacancy that's equal to his position that I'll be filling here in the next, whenever I can find a really very good applicant. So I'll have 2 of those, and I have 2 field inspectors. So I have 2 teams of 1 manager, 1 inspector, 1 manager, 1 inspector, and then they all report to me. Then I report to Brett. So that's our current team with our secretary and our receptionist. That's basically what I want to say.
Okay, so in addition to these positions, there will be new positions created? Will it be a contract type thing, or somebody to come in and oversee? Getting back to what his concern was and your response, that you are looking at hiring someone from money other than bond money.
Yes, it's not part of the 135 million.
I realize that.
Right.
But you are planning on hiring?
Well, I can't say planning on, I can say all we can do is send out an RFP. We can send out a proposal, and we can do different proposals. We can do a proposal like what we're planning on doing is doing a proposal for the high school, a proposal for the middle school and the elementary, because those 2 sites are going to meet together, a proposal for another elementary, a proposal for the 3rd elementary, and another proposal that would put all packages, everything as one. And then when we do these proposals, of course, they have to go out on bid. There's a 2-week or 10-day window that it's got to be posted, and after that is we got to go through. They have 2 weeks to get in their bids, and then once the bids are in, then we have to tabulate according to the evaluation and according to what the bids are. And just in case, I have Corpus is here, and what we do when we run these operations in the bidding process is that we do follow the state of Texas contract management guide from TxDOT. I think most of y'all are familiar with this. Most of y'all are it's a system that we use on how we bring our employees online. And once this is done, then all we can do is submit this to our school board, and they can either accept it, or they can take bits and parts of the packages or the amendments that we are offering, or they can turn it down and we can continue doing what we're doing now. It's completely up to the board.
In the past, so didn't they, some people that are brought up before the board, and the board said no? But that was somebody who had a proposal for $2 or $3 million to oversee or to manage the project.
This is the same type of concept for assistant in managing the projects was brought up about 1.5 years ago to the school board, and the agenda item was to authorize administration to solicit proposals to hire firms like this, and the motion failed due to a lack of a second, so it just died there. And only recently did it come up again. There's been some questions about, look at all the work that's going on. Do we have enough staffing? Do we have enough eyes out there? I've managed many projects over the years, 2 elementaries, I think even the most 3 elementaries at one time, but never 3 elementaries, a middle school and a high school, and wings, and roofing, and AC, and that's just the bond project. I have another $60–70 million worth of work on the local side. So there would have been no bond project approved. I would have still been busy with $60–70 million worth of work. And I think that's what the concern.
Mr. Trinidad, my concern really isn't about paying the actual person from the bond money. Obviously, that is a concern. But where it can affect the bond money is with the scope of authority that this person's given. For instance, if he's given the same scope of authority that Mr. Tapia has, wherein Mr. Tapia is actually negotiating with the actual architect when the problem comes up, because in every construction project you'll have a problem come up. They decide, okay, we're going to make these contract changes and we're going to recommend them to the board or whatever, then it starts affecting the bond money. And so that's where it becomes very crucial, is for us to even know what the scope of authority, what the RFPs you guys are sending out, so that we would know if indeed it could affect the bond money in some way in the future.
I can tell you that these, what we're looking for here are people who have the actual contractual experience of actually working with, and what we have is an experience qualification guideline that whoever wants to apply for these jobs has to fit the criteria. And then once if they do qualify, then they have to go through a process of, through the bid process, or looking at and evaluating the very top contenders, but they are not going to be people that's out there that's going to be running the business. Everything that they do has to come through Oscar to myself. They're not the one that's going to be asking for anything else. I'm the only one who takes things to our superintendent for change processes that has to go to our board. If I look at them and say, no, that's not going to happen, he and I have discussions on this daily. In fact, we were discussing one of our projects on a change project just here recently, and I didn't agree with it, and there were some things that we just held off on. There was another one that was brought up from our fire marshal for something we had to do for one of our schools. We discussed it, and then it was going to be submitted to our board that's coming up on the 12th. But these are just things that would be in the process. They do not have that control. We still have the control. We will be the people on top of working with these people and making sure that we have guidelines and parameters that are set forth according to what our district wants and, of course, of what y'all would like, so that our schools are still built the way we want them built in accordance to what we set out for when we did the bond. They will not be their own employees.
If I may, Mr. Jim, the RFP itself, that, I don't know, I never have discovered whether it did go out or it didn't go out, but one was prepared. We weren't at liberty to be able to look at it to find out what it was, and that's the reason. I think that was one of the biggest concerns, because we didn't know whether it was going to be bond money if it wasn't.
Correct.
And at this point, now that you're saying that it's not going to have to do anything with bond money at all, even though he is going to work with the bond money, there is something involved. My question would be, is this person, or is it a firm that they're going to go after, or is it individuals that they're going after? It's a firm. And what kind of a pay range are they looking at? And that's just for information purposes. I know that it's something that we may have to say or not, but I certainly would be interested in knowing the amount of money that we're looking at now in comparison to the amount of money that we were going to be using as far as the bond money was concerned back a year and a half ago, when we were trying to get a managing company to be hired to come in and play the role. But I don't know. I didn't understand, and I could never, since I couldn't ask any questions, I didn't know what the money was, how much money we're talking about for a firm to be able to look at it, because my biggest concern at this point, if we're going to hire a firm, is it just going to look, I mean, I got the impression that evening, like, we're going to look at the high school. They never mentioned anything about the middle school, they never mentioned anything about the elementary school, so are we going to hire that firm just for the high school and not for the other bond money? Or is it for the whole bond money that we're going out there working at? I mean, that would be a big concern as far as, I mean, me personally, you know, if I'm going to look at the money going for this particular bond, man, we should be looking at all of it, not just one high school.
Okay. I told y'all when I first came here and started this project that I was in a learning curve, and that I had picked up so much in the last month and a half, 2 months when I started here. But I did tell y'all that y'all were going to be my bouncing board one day in the future, because I do have a feeling that Brownsville's going to grow. And I do believe that we're going to grow tremendously, especially on that northwest quadrant, especially out towards San Pedro, in that area. I think everything is just going to start booming, and I don't know if this process, what we're doing now, is going to be enough to, in the near future, that's going to end the growth process. And we may be looking at something down the line, and I was going to need y'all to be the spokespeople for Brownsville for what we're doing, because I believe in Brownsville. I believe in our children. This is my home now, and I want to see it prosper, and I want to see the best things possible, and I want to build best schools that we can possibly have for our children. And I'm going to clarify 2 things here. Okay, I told y'all that this was not, and I've always told you that I would always be upfront with you, and I'm not going to hide anything, and I don't have anything to hide. And Tony, please correct me if I'm wrong here. Number 1 is that no, we are not using part of that $135 million in bonds but there are some capital bond projects and project funds that we can use funds for. Those funds can be used for the purchase of a construction management bid, or person, or company, or firm. Those funds can be used for athletic fields. Those funds can be used for bleachers. Those funds can be used for anything outside of the IFA money, which is what we had our proposal for the $135 million. So I want to make sure we have that straight first, okay? Number two thing that you had talked about was didn't know exactly how this was going to work, because when I was in the facilities meeting, Mendez-Saenz had mentioned to the board that they too were going to have somebody on site for their high school number 6, if y'all recall, for those people who were there, that they already were going to have somebody on site. And so what we had decided was that we were also going to do some attachments, or how would we call that? We were going to do some alternate bids. And the alternate bids was that we were going to have one for high school number 6, and this was for the board to look at. We're going to have one for the middle school and elementary, and that middle school and elementary is located on Alton-Gloria, right across from where Ortiz is, across from the Resaca. There's 2 sites all in one. We figured that one person, and that was one firm that was doing that one person can be housed in the same place to overlook both. We have the 2 elementary schools and the other locations, and all of those were going to be alternate sites. And then the last alternate was going to be one firm who may want to hire to look over all of the projects. And so that way it gave our school board an opportunity to look and see exactly. They could either vote on all, they could vote on partial, or vote on none. And that way they had options, and they could discuss that with us, just like I'm discussing with you now.
What's your all's plan B if the board denies that?
12 hours, 15-hour days, whatever it takes to make sure that we get this job done right. I have no problem with that.
I thought I remember mentioning, one time you guys mentioned you were going to hire in-house guys to do this.
Well, in fact, we had somebody in mind, and we have some other positions still available that we are looking for the right person for this job. In fact, we had somebody that we were ready to go back to and bring to the board, and that person decided, well, I'm going to put it this way, once he learned, or they learned that he was going to leave where he was coming from, they kind of sweetened the package for him, and so he decided to stay where he was at. And that happens, and that's okay. You know, we want to do what's best for us, and I'm sure they want to do what's best for him. But we are still looking for those positions, and in fact, we are looking at possibly interviewing here in the near future to fill some of our positions. Hope I answered your questions correctly.
Excuse me. On the construction manager, you know, they go through with it. Would he have any liability?
They have to follow our forms, and what's the amount of insurance liability? Do you remember? I think it's $1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah.
Is there any bonding required besides regular liability? Would he be duplicating any of the services that are provided by the architect? Duplication of
I'm not sure what you mean.
They'd have to.
Yeah, they would have to.
I mean, I don't mean to answer in their behalf, but it would only seem to me that if we're getting this person to oversee what he's doing, he's going to oversee the job that this individual is doing, so it would overlap itself. To say, I mean, that's my impression that evening, that they had just hired somebody at Mendez, and I forget the guy's name, but there was a young guy that they had just hired him to do that, to look over that project. Who was the contractor should also have one that's overlooking his project as a contractor part of it. So you already have 2 people that are looking to the detail. One's taking care of the construction itself, while the architect is making sure that they're doing what the architect exactly said that he should do.
Exactly. Okay, now I understand. I was a little lost there at your question, but I understand. Yes, there will be some duplications. Because the architect is actually there to oversee what the construction people are doing. They kind of work with us to make sure that everything comes in on time. If there's not, that why. I want to know answers. I want to have reasons why things aren't working out the way they're supposed to. But the reason why we are looking at these construction people is mainly for this, is honestly and truly, I'm just not for sure if I can keep up with the scope of the work. Right now, he and I know that I'm working sometimes 60, 70, 75 hours a week, keeping up with what I have to do curriculum-wise, what I have to do for the facilities and operations. And that, we hadn't even started the projects yet, but we're getting ready to over the next several months. We're getting ready to cut ground over the next several months, and that means that I'm going to have to either neglect, and I don't want to neglect my curriculum side because tax and our students are the number one, and so that's going to be my top priority. Second priority is making sure that these projects go underway in a timely manner, which means I'm going to be putting a lot on Oscar to make sure, and his team, and everybody else to make sure that we have everything that we have to. If the board decides that we're going to get 1 or 2 people, that's a great help for us. If they decide not to, that's okay. We'll still do what we have to do to make sure the job is done correctly. This is just an opportunity that I see that could help me and what I'm doing with my job as far as facilitating and working and learning with the construction environment. I'm taking classes, believe it or not. I'm kind of just re-enrolling myself into a different world. I'm going to TASBO at the end of this month, and I'm taking 6 hours of construction, 2 days worth. And then I've got some classes that I've got taking online to help me with architectural firms and what I'm supposed to be looking for and how I'm going to be learning this business. And I'm a doer, and I'm going to get out and do the best I can to make sure that everything's done no matter what the board decides.
Let me just ask you guys, to clarify one of the previous questions, you're not looking for individuals, you're looking for firms to do this? Any particular reason why?
The type of firm that we're looking at in our RFP, which is the request for proposals from firms, is not one individual, but a firm that will have an individual at the site. That individual will help inspect, keep daily records, attend meetings, minutes, look at the construction schedules. And when there's questions that come up that are a little bit beyond the site inspector's expertise, he will report and have the backing of licensed architects, licensed engineers, at wherever the headquarters is, whether it be McAllen, San Antonio, Corpus, wherever the firm's from. So they'll have a slew of support. It's just not going to be that one person. There'll be a back of experts behind that he'll relay information to. And if there's a problem, a conflict, then they'll invite architects, engineers from that firm to also come down and help give advice on, we have a problem here, how do we best resolve it? We may have to make some engineering changes, and then they'll come to us and meet with our project engineers and architect that maybe we could change it this way. This firm's responsibility is going to be strictly advisory, the way we're preparing the RFP right now. No authority to direct anybody to do anything. You can't tell a contractor how to build his buildings and the means and methods. That's on the owner-contractor agreement. He has to do it the way he thinks is best done. We can make suggestions. Sometimes contractors ask, well, we can do it one of two ways. What do you prefer? They kind of ask input from us. These consultants will help us make those kind of decisions. If there's a change order, they'll research, go to their main office, research, is this price within industry standards or is it too expensive to do? They'll recommend this is 30-40% more than what we're used to seeing in the industry. And the construction mean catalog and other references that the resources that they have to say that's not within line of our pricing, we don't recommend it. But it's up to you, BISD, if you want to do it, fine. But they'll just provide us with information and expertise, but no authority whatsoever to sign any documents or tell anybody what to do. It's like they're my staff, but they're housed somewhere else. No different than that side of my inspectors come to me, hey, we saw this problem, and I get involved and I take it to my boss superintendent. It's like they're working under me, but they're part-time. When the project's over, they disappear. Pack up their suitcases, they leave. That's why we're looking at the RFP.
Kind of going along with what Mr. Leal was saying, it sounds kind of duplicative. I thought that the architectural firms that was hired for each project already has their team of engineers and architects. Now you're going to get another firm to have their architects and engineers to solve the same problems. It doesn't sound Sounds like you end up with a lot of problems. That's just my opinion.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry.
I was going to say that, Mr. Chairman, since this is not bond money that they're spending, and those other experts that you're talking about, as I understand, don't necessarily report to and tell Mr. Tapia the problems that may be in effect there, to have the school have its own inspectors and a professional company to do so, I think makes sense. They're supposed to do it, but they're limited in how much time is available, especially with the scope of work that has to be done. I'd like to see us maybe ask a few more questions, whatever, but I'd like to move on to our bond meeting.
Okay, anybody have any other questions along the lines of this?
Yes, I have a question on project management. From what I've heard so far, an example with the high school, we have a potential of 3 people overseeing the project in general, one from the architect, one from the contractor, and a potential 3rd person hired by the school district not using bond funds. Am I correct?
And my department, that'd be 4 individuals.
So 4. My concern with that is the buck stops where? In other words, in the position I see myself in as part of this committee, my responsibility is to make sure that that money is spent appropriately, and if it's not, where does the buck stop? Who holds the ultimate responsibility?
I do.
Okay.
I'm the assistant superintendent of operations, that's my job, is to oversee that, to make sure that everything is done wisely, everything is done correctly.
I just don't want to find ourselves in a situation where there is some issues, hopefully they're not.
You know, and I'm hoping that we never get to the point where we have fingers that we have to start pointing.
Everybody starts pointing to, well, he was a project manager, well, he's an architectural firm, well, there's a project manager from the contractors, and they start pointing fingers at each other.
No, and that's not my expertise is more in leadership, and I'm hoping to take that expertise into working with these people so that we're all working on the same page. I've had a good run at getting people working on the same page. And you know that with how the cluster runs and how things run at the school that you're a volunteer at. We've got good leadership there, and I want to make sure that leadership takes place in what we're doing when we work with people, and that we're in the people business. And no matter if you're a contractor, no matter if you're an architect, I'm dealing with people. And what we have to get across to these people is that the only way that we're going to make these projects work, the only way we're going to get them in on time, is if we're all working on the same page, that we're communicating, and that's my job. And so, yes, that thought does stop right here.
Okay, and maybe just to clarify a little bit and use more specific terms, you know, if a wall falls down, we got 3 project managers, 3 different firms. Who's going to be responsible for that?
Architect.
Okay.
Because he didn't. The architect did not have something that he put there that was right, or somebody built it wrong. And
I guess that would go into other issues more.
Right. We're going into different issues that are just way out there.
Okay.
I would hate to speculate. I don't think there's any speculation there, but that's what that person is for, is to make sure that those kind of things don't happen.
Okay.
Any more questions, Mr. Gonzalez?
On project manager, no, but I have a whole lot of other ones. So I'm trying to catch up to speed here. This is only my second meeting. So.
On new business?
I got some.
Hold on one second.
Sure.
As far as this line of questioning of this project manager, anybody got any more questions or anything? Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, you got some other new business you'd like to talk about?
I'm sorry. I just only had one question. You know, I know that you're new to this area and stuff, but what other responsibilities fall in your assistant superintendent's job? I know you got curriculum and you have. Is that like you're an interim in this, or have they been assigned directly to you?
They have been assigned directly to me. Yeah, I'm right now the assistant superintendent over operations. I also assistant superintendent over athletics. I also deal with the secondary schools that are still in my PACE cluster, the Stillman, the Stell, the PACE High School. And those 3 areas of the curriculum part right now are an interim position until we find a full-time position, an area assistant superintendent to take that over. Which, believe you me, it's not a problem with me because I love what I do, and I also want to see these schools do well, and the superintendent does too. So it's hard to make a change and pull somebody or hire a different AA, what I call area assistant superintendent, and he's on the same page with me here, that to bring in right before testing, I mean, we have testing coming up in just, right around the corner, and we're gonna bring somebody else in new, and they're not gonna understand the philosophy that I've been doing with that cluster for the last 3.5, 4 years. I can't believe I've been here this long. JP, can you believe that? And we are just, it's just it's a decision that had to be made, and we are all total agreement, that I'll just do everything right now until we get help or help comes around the corner. No problem.
Mr. Gonzalez, you got some other new business you'd like to bring up?
Well, Mr. Zayas, unfortunately, since this is only my second meeting, I'm not quite sure what's old business or new business, so I asked the committee to be patient while I catch up with this. I just feel that these questions are prudent, at least on my part, to catch up to speed with what's going on. Time frame? Are we on time still? What's our time frame for these projects?
I think that's going to be the presentation today.
Okay, great. And when I go to some probably possible old business, and this was an issue that was mentioned at the last school board meeting, where there was several committee members were there, and maybe the administration can address a little bit more. There was concern expressed by one of the board members, and I expressed this concern also, that the proper school zones and the proper safety features have been factored into these constructions. And I think it is relevant to our committee position, because in order for us to ensure that this money is well spent and spent properly, that these issues have to be addressed. And from what I gathered from the superintendent's response, that they have not been addressed. So I'd like to ask the administration present today if they have anything on that, if they've been addressed, and if they're planning to address it.
I need your help, I will tell you that. We are looking at multiple projects that are going up the Farm to Market Road, which we call out in Glory. Okay, and we do know that there are construction plans from TxDOT. If I'm not mistaken, it is a Farm to Market Road, which makes it a TxDOT entity. That they're the ones that we have to be negotiating with. They are the ones that we have to be working with. We have to be applying, and I call it good pressure. Because if you have ever been out and pulled out of Ortiz Elementary, y'all know where Ortiz is, correct? If you pull out there, it is the single lane or the double lane, and then it goes into the single lane, and about where the single lane is where we're getting ready to build a middle school and elementary. Am I correct, Oscar? And there are no warning lights there for Ortiz, and we've had some accidents there. And now we're getting ready to build 2 more schools almost right next to each other. And that's where that lane goes into a single lane. Now, my understanding from what I have learned, and just by listening, and I think you have been part of some of the meetings, Ms. Ortiz keeps me informed, that TxDOT has delayed their construction for that road, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all may be aware of this. The school district does not have any jurisdiction over that. We have no jurisdiction whatsoever, but it doesn't say that we cannot form or get ideas that we can write. There are certain people that I know that we can write that are part of our commission that we can send in and write things to about our concerns about the traffic flow. I think we need to do something to facilitate that process over the next 2 years before these schools are actually finished. We've got 2 years to get that done. I'm in favor of that, because I do not want to see anybody injured on that road, because we have all of a sudden built schools. Because when we build schools, we got school buses, we got parents that are going to be pulling in to park. That's going to be a dangerous intersection, and y'all also know where Stillman and Ituria is. If you've ever driven by there when we open up school in the morning, it's a nightmare. And so, yes, but those are certain things that it's hard for us to control, because we do not control the farm and market roads, because those are state roads. If not, we could go straight to the city, and we could work directly with the city about getting things done. And so if we have names that you could help us with and that I can help you with, I'll be more than happy to get in there and jump in that bandwagon with you to see what we can facilitate.
And also, if just a recommendation to the administration on my behalf, I know this might be too far along the process, maybe not, but I really like for you to revisit the whole setup on entrance and parking. I can tell you firsthand, if I feel that our money, our job here is to make sure the money is well spent, to to re-examine the parking issues and the one main entrance, one exit, which creates a traffic fiasco and it's a safety issue.
I will tell you that most of our construction documents that you're gonna find, are almost complete. Okay, and they're all part of the timeline that you're getting ready to see. And they were also presentations that were done by every one of our architectural firms to this group about every design for every school, every entrance, every street, every school that we felt like it was gonna be a neighborhood school, that was gonna be a decrease in traffic. And every entrance, everything has been looked at. And there have been some revisions compared to what we have done at other schools to make that traffic flow a little bit better, and even some turnarounds for people who want to get in and all of a sudden decide, I'm not going to do this, and they can turn around. We've got those things implemented into a lot of our systems, but those things have been dressed, and those CDs are just almost complete for a lot of those potential schools that we're getting ready to talk about within the timelines.
Mr. Gonzalez, anything else?
Yeah, a little bit later when we get to new business.
Now, Mr. Gonzalez, in all fairness to him, that was one of my biggest concerns when they came to make all these presentations to us. I was always emphasizing the
Flow of traffic.
The flow of traffic. I was criticized quite a bit because I said, why do you have to use the right foot to go in and the left to come out? You know, but they guaranteed me and told me that the traffic flow would be to the best that particular area would serve. I haven't seen the last decision or the way that it was made, but it was brought to their attention as far as that's concerned. So it has been brought to them how the flow is going to come, and they were taking care of with the buses and the people dropping off their children and stuff like that. They did look into it.
Well, I guess what you're saying is, when they gave a presentation of the actual design of the school, there was a lot of discussion on flow of traffic, and it was a major concern of a lot of the board members. And there was a lot of thought put into that, how the flow would go. And the example they gave around the Ituria always came up, that it's a real headache around there. But the problem that frustrates that is it's combined with what TxDOT's going to do, or the city. And we really don't have control over that, so they got to do with what's there right now and then try to work around that. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and allow you guys to give your presentation on the 2007 school board project construction timeline.
Thank you, Mr. Zayas. In your packet on page 1, we have a report there, 2007 BISD bond projects projected construction timelines. And this is a report that was presented at the last Facilities Committee meeting, which some of you attended, all of you were invited to attend. And the superintendent updated our board members to the Facilities Committee meeting on all the projects that we're talking about, all the site plans of all the new schools. They had already seen some of that, but they saw the revisions after we've been meeting with this group at the last board meeting, or facilities meeting. So the board was updated on that. The board had not heard, the Facilities Committee had not heard presentations on the classroom wings that we heard here from all the architects. All the air conditioning, the roofing, fire alarm projects had not gone to the Facilities Committee, so they were updated on that, which this group had already been updated on. So the only thing that, if you didn't attend that Facilities Committee meeting, the only thing new that's been discussed, that had not been discussed here before, that now the school board has, was timeline. That's the only new information we gave them, that those of you that didn't go to the meeting have not been made aware of. So this is what we wanted to share with you, so that you can now have everything that both the Facilities Committee meeting, school board members, and this group now will have all equal information. We have some timelines, and we work with the architects. Of course, they wanted more time, everybody wants more time, and we held them to the gun, and we pulled them close, and so no, we want to move up the timelines. And these are the timelines that we agreed upon, and they said they're going to make every effort to try to meet these timelines. The high school, for example, the first one, not next Monday, but the following Monday on the 18th, we should get our building plans, construction documents, which we call CDs, which are spec books, and your building blueprints in my office, final set. And we're going to start reviewing them. We're already doing some preliminary reviews. And the purchasing department will initiate a bid request. That purchasing department starts processing the paperwork. They send notices to the newspaper, and it'll be advertised on if everything goes to schedule, on February 24th and March 2nd, 2 Sundays in a row. After the second advertisement on March 2nd, during the week, like on a Wednesday, Thursday, I think this is a Thursday, we'll have what we call a pre-bid construction meeting. And basically, the bid's going to be the following week, and a lot of times the contractors have questions. Well, we read this, but does it mean this or does it mean this? Because my pricing may be different based on what answer I get. So that's the purpose of that meeting. They have a lot of questions. Any contractor that wants to bid, show up there with their list of questions, because they want to be able to sharpen their pencil and get the best numbers so that they can beat out the other contractors on the bidding. And the architect will either answer there, and then we'll follow up in writing through what they call addendums. It's a written document that goes out to all participating contractors that picked up plans at the architect's office. They register there because they got plans. That means they're going to bid. So if somebody calls in later that says, oh, well, I wanted to bid and I didn't get a copy of the addendum. Well, you never came to pick up plans, so how were you even putting a package together bidding if you don't have documents? So once we have a list of contractors that picked up, that's pretty much it. And so any addendums that go out will go out only to those contractors that they picked up plans. So that's the purpose of the pre-bid. If everything goes fine, March 19th will be the bid date when the prices come in, and then we have to go through a whole ranking process. So we're targeting April 1st to go to the school board with an award recommendation. If approved, construction should start within 7 to 10 days after that. And then we start in May, we'll have 12 months until next May, and we'll have time to move in June, July, part of August, the furniture and get everything set up to open up for the fall of Olympics. So that gives you an example of how the process works. You have a timeline there for the high school, and then you have the middle school, elementary. These drawings will be in on April 7th to my office. The other elementary, March 20th. So you can see they're all different dates, so we're trying to stagger them so they all don't happen at the same time. If you go down the list on the classroom wings, the AC on page 2 on the bottom, the next Monday those plans will come in. So that one's going to be advertised first, these and the fire alarms.
Let me ask you a question, if I may, or do you want us to ask it after the presentation? So, for the project of the middle school and the elementary, weren't you going to use the same work that was done at the two of the other middle school and then the elementary school, or not?
The architect is doing both of these.
They were just going to use the same plan.
Well, that's for the elementary.
For the elementary.
The middle school is a brand new design.
Okay. And we're going with both of them together, I guess, the bids and...
One package, but we are going to have an item structured where you can actually bid one or the other.
Okay.
And if it's to our benefit, where we can save money hiring 2 separate contractors, then we will certainly entertain that option. But usually when you bid things together, you get a better price. We're still going to see if we split it, we can get a better price.
And I guess that's why we're waiting for the other document to keep it together, rolling as a group, rather than going individually. Because since they already have all the other...
That's correct. And that's the way it goes down the line. There is something on the last page that is the other elementary is locally funded. That's not something this committee is involved in. That's a local project, along with all my other local projects. But this is presented at the facilities committee meeting. It is in here, but disregard that one. You don't have any involvement in it.
Which one's that?
Elementary 141 on page 4.
All right.
Let's come out of the general...
Oscar, is that enough time to allow contractors to get good bidding on a huge project like a high school? Almost seems like, man, short time period.
Well, that's the timeline we come up with, and if we don't hold tight to these bid times, if we start delaying, and they start July and August, then come fall of 09 or 10, schools won't be open. But we have to start close to these times, even if something happens, or you're always going to have some kind of snag, possible issues come up. I don't think we'll have it on these, but in the past, for example, the architect called out for a bid opening in 2 days. I've only had one contractor pick up plans. We're only going to get one bidder. And in the 15 years I've been here, if you go to the board with one bidder, they're going to reject it because it's not competitive. No, let's bid it over again. We want 2, 3 contractors. Do I see that happening in any of these projects? I don't think so, but you never know. If that happens, we may have to extend the bid a week or 2 to try to get more bidders. But that's something that we'll takes to the superintendent to decide, do we do that, or do we take our chances, and what if nobody bids? If you extend the bid, you can extend it a week, too. If you take a chance and open bids, and either nobody bids or only one contractor bids, and we don't want to do it, just rebid it, well, guess what? We got to start from the beginning, advertise this Sunday, the next Sunday, 10 days after, free bid, you lose two months. So we don't want to rebid anything where you can extend 1 week or rebid and lose 2 months.
Mr. Tapia, have you been in touch with any contractors? Do you see an interest in contractors that can do these kind of jobs down here for us?
The project architects have been getting a lot of calls.
Okay.
On the high school, the contractor, even at the facilities meeting, went on record and said that there have been 4 to 5 large general contractors that already want to start seeing the plans.
Okay, thank you.
And even named the firms that, so there's a lot of interest.
Well, that's good news.
On the high school, there might be 1 in the valley, maybe 3 out of the valley, because you have to be big enough to be bonded for this size project, and not too many firms in the valley can bond this kind of project. But there is 4 firms already. They're waiting for the plans to come out so they can grab them.
Okay, thank you.
How far do you extend the advertising to? Just Brownsville up through McAllen, or?
The law just says to advertise in the local newspaper, but we also have it on, we have Corpus here, we advertise it on the web, and what else? Taskable? What other sites do we advertise?
Yeah, our website, we're able to provide with data and documents. Also, construction data, which is informed out of our San Antonio, with a lot of major contractors. We do have the projects out there. So that's free service.
So anyone bidding can look into that service, and they'll see our projects on it, and they can contact the architect, hey, let's go pick up plans. It's just not advertising.
I share the same concern as Mr. Zayas. We spend several months in the design and architectural area, and then you spend probably less than a week or 2 bidding, and less than a week of decision making, and that's a tremendous amount of data to go through and make sure everything's accurate in quotes and sourcing, and it'd be nice, if we get to have a chance to review the recommendations and sourcing bids also, why we made decisions on who gets the final call after you receive all the bids. I know it won't be our decision, but it'd be nice to be aware of the information and what choices we made.
We are looking at a completely different type of format. What I'm trying to do here is a challenge to efficiency. And I noticed that when we were using our departments, and I'm just going to use an example, there were some times that we would go to an auction, and we would have food service would have certain obsolete items, and we'd take it to the board, and they would have an auction for their items. And a little bit later, I would see transportation coming back up and wanting to do an auction for obsolete buses they may have or vehicles. And a little bit later, I saw we were having maintenance that had old equipment they weren't using. And since I was over all those departments there for a short time, and we'll have back again here in the future, I started mainstreaming everything for efficiency through one channel, which was going through the purchasing department. And purchasing would have control over all of this kind of things. Because we have procurement laws, we have all kinds of different laws for advertising, we have different laws that you have to have for the number of days you put out a bid. And there are certain laws in here, and that's the reason why I have Corpus here, is that we are channel. All of this stuff is not going to go through auction or myself. This stuff is going to go through the process, the bid process. We're going to send it out, everything to the spec, and we're going to turn everything in. But the filtering process is going to be filtered through our purchasing department. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them about this process?
My name is Corpus Rolla, and I'm a senior buyer for the district. I'm assigned to Oscar Tapia to actually aid in the procurement process. When it comes to construction and bids, they do form a committee, and I believe the price is read out. But there's also other evaluation factors that are included to pick the best value for the district. And that information is not privileged until after the award. And so we really cannot have any other input due to the fact that that information may be in negotiation, may damage the actual process. So, really the whole idea is to make sure that it's getting the best value, but that information is only, for the committee, that Oscar forms.
Could you shed some light or share with us what that best value process is? How do they make that decision?
The best value is going to go to the Board of Trustees, I believe, next board on the weight scale that they're using for construction. Okay, and that is published through the specs. So everybody that's bidding on that is going to have that information. So that has been approved by the governing body, that administration is going to approve.
I want everything to flow through one channel. And it's willing to go through Oscar, and then also had to come back to me, and then all of a sudden we had these committees, and we went through purchasing. This gentleman here has been, working, he knows the law, and that's the reason why, if you want me to, I have no problem, emailing you what we're using, so that you all have the same thing that we have. If you want to review the same procedures that we're doing, every one of you can have them, I can send them to you by computer. I have no problem. It's just a document that we use, and the state of Texas contract management guide, we get it through TechDoc, and we are fulfilling all of our stuff that I am now working with for efficiency purposes, to make sure everything is flowing through one channel, and everything is done correctly the right way. And I'll be more than happy to do one copy of this, but I'll be more than happy to do it. All you do is contact me or Pat, and we can just, that way you can have that document.
Mr. Sorolla?
Yes.
Let me clarify what you just said. Did you just say that when you all get the bids, they're not open in a public forum to find out what the numbers are?
Yes, they are open up in public forum, but there's other documents that they submit, and that's the financials, I think, that's used. Also, the qualification statements. That information is not privileged to public.
Oh, okay. But the actual bid?
Yes, the actual bid.
Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yes,
Information on the
right, and that's part of the best value of the cycle.
Those timelines that you see there before you, were negotiations, because when I went back and studied what we had, previously went to the bonds for, we promised that we were going to break ground in the spring right away. I started looking at some of the background and started looking at some of the CDs and the documents, and I said, this is not going to work. I got with Oscar and I said, you need to get with these architects, because these architects work for us. We do not work for them. And that's the way it is. And we are going to push up this timeline, and they didn't like it at first, but once they figured out that this is what we were going to do, and this is what we were going to hold back, then I'm planning on holding these timelines to the table. And I'm going to work with these people, but I want them to understand that they do work for us as a school district, because we work for you as a public entity that's working for us. You expect us to have these things done. And when we promised our public that we were going to have break ground and spread away, that's what we're going to do. And that's what I want to make sure happens. And that's why you see these timelines, and they are spread out. We have them spread out for several reasons, because I don't know if there's enough contractors in the valley or around this whole entire area that jump on all these projects and take them all on at once. And so, yes, we are spreading them out over a period of time, and hopefully that we can attract people, because y'all know what's going on outside. Y'all know what the interest rates are going. It's a great time for people to come to the valley, because a lot of people in certain areas of our nation are kind of sitting close to that recession timeline. We are not. We're in a growth pattern here, especially with what we're doing by building these schools. And there are people out there across our state and other states that are looking at what we are doing, and they're interested in our projects. And I do not think that we're going to have a hard time finding great contractors to come in here and work with us. I think you're going to be simply amazed at the number of interest that we have for these projects.
Are you all going to be allowing people to pick up construction drawings prior to advertising dates?
That would be an unfair.
So just to confirm, I think I may or may not have heard this, but all the bids come in through your area, do your best value analysis. I assume you make a recommendation, or do you make the final sourcing decision? And does that go through your office, or does it have to go through the school board and they got to approve it before the final sourcing award?
The checks and balances are that Oscar and his make a recommendation to the purchasing agent, which is my administrator. She reviewed the documentation to ensure that it didn't meet all the specifications, and it is a clean bid, and then it'll go to the superintendent, and then, of course, to the board of trustees. The board of trustees are the ones who make decisions, nay or nay.
And the documents you present to the Board of Trustees, is it a comparative analysis?
Yes,
on
it is. It's a bid
the
package.
financial breakdown,
Yes.
best value?
At that time, then the information is up.
Does the superintendent make a recommendation at that time, or do the Board of Trustees then take that information and make a decision?
Right, so the superintendent will bring up the agenda item to the board of trustees with the bid information, and then the trustees will make a decision.
But the superintendent
Make the recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
Through staff.
Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Oscar, on each of these projects, just one general contractor will be responsible for the entire project, like the construction of the building, landscaping, parking, everything? Just one contractor? Okay.
At the ranking, when you do the ranking, you yourself do the ranking, the committee that you form, is that pretty much within those group of people only, or is that, did you do that is it a public, where you can?
And even with that committee, the committee can't even, really has to have, you might want to come up with a.
Yeah, there is a form that we use called the non-closed form, that they say that they will not release any kind of information to anyone. And if they do, and if they are, there is a legal consequence.
To answer your question on the committee, that is a board-approved procedure that approves the committee. Ranking committee is the assistant superintendent for operations or facilities, the administrator for facilities, which is me, construction manager, which is my assistant, the project architect or engineer, and the chief financial officer. That is what the committee, the ranking committee consists of, and that's been board-approved, and we can't deviate.
Yeah.
Good.
So, basically, as far as we're concerned, to be able to have some kind of a knowledge, it would be, the first time that we'd be able to be, would look at would be at the board meeting when they give it to the board to be able to approve it.
Purchasing will only relate to bidders, and of course, the pricing that is actually given out to those bidders. No other information can be.
Just at the time of the board meeting.
Right, exactly.
And I noticed, from the time that you receive the bids and the ranking dates, there's 1 or 2 weeks from the ranking period to the board award. And do you have board meetings set in between those timeframes so that the board makes that decision, keep this timeline on schedule? There's only 1 or 2 weeks in between the ranking and the board award, so does those dates line up with the board meetings?
We have to submit the agenda items 2 weeks before the board meeting.
Okay.
If I don't, then I miss that one board meeting, and I have to go to another board meeting on that.
So that means these dates are in jeopardy.
Why are there 2 ranking dates on each project?
It's not two ranking dates, it's a range, because we may take 2, 3, 4, 5 days to rank. Part of the ranking is that you have to call references, and I may call Northeast ISD in San Antonio. This contractor listed that he did a school for you, I want to ask questions. He's not here, he's on vacation, he'll return your call, and 2 days later he has to return my call. And we're trying to get all this information to do our ranking, and until they return our calls, I could take 2 days to do it, I could take 5, 6 days to do it. So, some of those I'm only giving myself 2, 3 days. If they don't return my call, I gotta call someone else or put no response and move forward.
You're saying that the ranking is not public information?
The ranking is published, right, but the actual results are not given to the public until after the board approval. So you can't see what the ranking is in the school. You can't see office score, you can't see the chief financial officer, until the very end.
No, I'm saying After you guys rank, you're gonna come up with a final tabulation, rank 1 through 5, whatever. And that becomes public. And after the board approves it. And that's based on what procedure?
That's based on procedure of, what you want to do is you'll want to ruin the bidding process. And by releasing that type of information out there in the public, then you're going to negotiate with one of the vendors or one of the contractors. They know where they're at tonight. So you don't want to give that information out. So it keeps the integrity of the whole process together. That's, remember, this information is basically going properly.
State laws?
Yes, and the criminal law, I'm not telling you that. Right. Exactly.
Unless somebody wants to take over my job and be a part of the committee. You're welcome. No, not really. I'm just asking. Yeah, as you can tell, we're gonna have a lot of committee hours because, we've got a short timeline with a lot of different projects here. And that means we're gonna be working long hours to call references because we wanna contact their references. We wanna know what kind of projects they worked on, what it is that they did. Did they have any, delays? What were they? Now, I wanna know these types of things. I want to know the people that are coming down to work for us are people that have good work ethics, that have done spectacular jobs, whatever they've been, and that they're going to work well with us. And there again, that's just something that we're prepared to do over the next several months, is to make sure that we have the best people possible during this timeline to follow, to make sure that we have what needs to be done for our schools.
I just added up some of these dates real quickly, and you have 5 major projects to rank and get board approval in a 1-week time frame, all by April 1st. Then you got 2 by April 15th, 5 by May 6th, and 1 by May 20th. And I know the board was very, very key every month of the meetings I've attended about staying on schedule. And every month we say, yes, we're going to stay on schedule, but does your department believe that you will get all these bids, rank them, and make recommendations within 1 to 2 weeks time frames within those due dates and get approval? If you don't think so, I think, my recommendation to the committee was that this should be brought as a risk to the board in the next board meeting and possibly retimed, at least the dates retimed for something at least more realistic, or reprioritize based on key needs, and so everybody realizes, what really possibly can be done. But if you believe that this all can be done at this time frame, then it's not a problem. But that's the only concern I have from this.
Like I said earlier, we're certainly going to try to meet these timelines. The architects were questioned at the facilities committee meeting, can you meet these timelines? And they all said, yes. Okay. Try it. But, it's like anything else. We're hiring outside consultants. They don't work in my office. So we're hoping they're working diligently in late hours to make this deadline. If the time comes and they're not ready, well, then we're going to have a meeting with them to find out why they weren't finished on time, and hopefully get them back on track and go from there.
I've had a meeting with several of them already, timelines they had beforehand, and I just had to let them know, y'all do work for us. We do not work for you, and you've had plenty of time to finish up your contract documents, because you've met with all the subgroups. You've met with, I'll just give you an example, high school. At first they kind of pulled back with us, and all of a sudden they were right there on board with us because they thought that we could get this done. They've met with all the people in career technology. They've worked with the people who need to be a part of what needs to be a part of that building. They've worked with all the people in the science as far as what we need in the science labs. They've worked with everybody in the language arts. They've worked with everybody that they're supposed to come up with a construction document. And so, yes, I have been working with these people, and I have worked with some of these firms, and I have talked with them personally and told them that This is the wishes of our superintendent, this is the wishes of our community, and I'm going to stay firm with these dates. And, I'm not going to tell you that there's not going to be, I don't think anything ever runs perfectly all the time, 100% of the time. I'm realistic too, but I will tell you that we're going to try to hold these things as true as possible for what you see here. And if there's any changes, we will first know.
I assume no vacation requests during this time frame.
Okay, any more questions on the timeline, Pat? Okay, let's move on to the financial report.
First of all, good evening. My name is Tony Fuller. I'm going to present the financial report. Now, this is my first time I've presented to this committee, so I really don't know how familiar you are with our account structure. So bear with me. I just want to go over a few things, make sure, I understand where you're all on this.
I would like to make a statement that we had requested that there be better labeling for us to know what schools, like, instead of numbers, so that we would have clarity here. And I see it's not been done.
Okay, and that's why I'll do that for next period. That's why I just want to get a feeling of exactly what format you're looking at. But what we're mandated by Texas Education Agency on our account code structure. We don't dream these numbers up. All 1,100 school districts must follow these for bond purposes. The first set of numbers, which is the fund, 631 on the very first page, that relates back to proposition number 1, which is the 2 elementary schools. If you go across that page, you come into the function. Now, when it comes to capital acquisition, renovation, construction, that's function 81. That will always stay the same within these funds right here. That will never change. The 6,600, that'll also stay the same. That's nothing but capital acquisition. The next set of numbers, you'll see 19. 19 is land purchases or land improvements. The 29 are building improvements or building purchases. So you'll always see those two numbers there, 19 and 29. The next numbers, really we need to look for the kind of the target or the organization. And I think this is the area you're looking at for the campuses. Right now, these campuses are not named, but we're just calling elementary 142 and elementary 143. Again, it's all project or the proposition 1. Again, going across the account code structure, these are local accounting codes. We set them up, and you'll see it later on in Proposition 4, but right now you'll see all these basically zeros. And then we go into, I kind of put a little filler in here, and that's the description. I try to give you a little bit more information of the land, the contractor, the engineer, attorney fees, printing, and so forth. So that's the description column. We put in the original budget. That's the budget that we estimated when we did the bond materials back in 2006. So those numbers will always stay the same. Current budget is basically the budget we have right now for those projects. Most of those numbers still are the same, but you'll see, and I will get to an example I think on the high school where we've had to move some money around for some infrastructure changes. Prior year to date expenditures, that's expenditures as of June 30th, 2007. Now, those numbers are going to stay constant because those numbers already took place. They're already audited dollars. So that column will never change also. Year to date, that's nothing more than through the period of January 31st. These are items that we've actually have a check for as of January 31st. The encumbered amount, these are the POs that are still outstanding. For example, you can go down to where it has architect engineer. We had an original budget of $900,000. It's still currently $900,000. We had a PO when this architect was hired for $630,000. Today, we paid that architect $72,000, approximately $72,000. So that means that architect has a balance remaining of about $557,000 still under contract. Okay, so that's why the two different columns. And then you have the available balance of $270,000. Those funds will stay there until we have a need to move them to a different area within the same school. And the same thing for the bottom half, which is elementary school 143. Now, you will always see these two elementary schools on this one page, 631. We try to I guess, keep a good separation of these propositions. We didn't want to make one fund number and put them all together. I figured it'd be a lot easier to count for these propositions if we kept them separate. So that's why you see the two elementary schools, it correlates back to Proposition 1. On Proposition 2,
I want to make sure that if there's something that you want me to change on this form, because I know there's a lot of y'all that have different jobs, and I wouldn't know what you're talking about if you told me something that you were doing and I've never been in it before, and I know that this is new to a lot of you. And so, please, let us know what it is that you would like to see on here that I can change it or give you that would give clarity.
Can you put, like where it says 142 total, where it says description, can you write in there, elementary school, Olson Road, or where, something that at least we have, shows you where it is, and that's that it is an elementary school, that it's off of 802 near Stillman, or wherever, that you don't have to, you have room there under description to give us something more.
okay, sure, we can do that.
If you could do that, I would very much appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, no, and that's good, because I can do that real soon. This is nothing but a download into
Yeah,
Excel.
that's what I figured.
So we can
Okay,
take
thank
care
you
of
so much.
Yes, Mr. Fuller. The other request I would have is you show the prior year, the year-to-date expense, and the encumbered, which is the POs outstanding still to be paid. But every month, could you, if you're going to be the one or someone else, could highlight what payments have been made for that month and give us a justification or reason, say, okay, for this past month, between meetings, we've at least highlighted in the columns that these payments have been made because of this, such as they achieved their second payment for construction documents, or we made a payment for this land, or so forth, because it's a lot of information, and when we look at, not sure if it's already been spent this month or 3 months ago. Can you just touch base on that?
I understand what you're saying. Let me suggest, maybe, we can come to compromise here. On the first three propositions, they only deal with 4 campuses, which wouldn't be a problem. But when you start into the Proposition 4, it gets into more detail. What I can do, though...
For the key expenditures.
Right. So I was just going to say, let's take the architect or the contractor. I give you we may have had a payment to the contractor or the architect for, $300,000, or whatever it is. And I'll put a notation at the bottom of this page. That way you know that the architect did get a payment in this, say, month of February. But then it'd take a lot of time for me to go line item by line item.
Right, I don't want to get it yet.
Printing, but I think the key expenditures, does that sound all right?
That sounds good.
Okay.
I don't need a ledger of every PO, but the highlights and maybe a justification of, why the payment went out and for what they achieved.
We'll just put a brief little description.
Because we only get a half hour. Okay.
On the next page is the new middle school. Basically, again, it's the same account code structure, except the first 3 numbers are going to be 632, and that just goes back to Proposition number 2. Everything that deals with that new middle school will be signed into 632, again, for a separation of accounts by proposition. We'll identify new middle school on that. On the next page is the new high school, and that's out there on Carmen, I believe? Military, but out there by the Carmen Avenue area. And same account code, except this is Fund 633. The following page is Proposition 4, which we funded that as 634. Now, this is the proposition that goes into a little more detail because of the different projects. You have some ADA funding, you have fire alarm upgrades, HVAC upgrades, intercom upgrades, new wings, and re-roofing. But again, the account codes themselves basically stay the same. The 81 is the same all throughout. The 19 is again land improvements. The 29 is building or building improvements. The organization code, now, I think what we can do here is give you a copy. Maybe you already have a copy of our organization codes.
our location codes. Like 043 on the first page, that's Falk Middle School. I don't know if you have a copy of the organization list there. Yeah, cool. What we can do, we can give you a copy of an organization listing. Basically, it has all our campuses and their location number, like 043 is Falk Middle School. 044 is Step. Those numbers are real familiar to me, but to you all, if you all need that information, we can supply with no problem.
Each one of those different codes always represents a different school location. So what I will do is make sure that I give you a kind of key map that'll show 44 being shows, 43 being Falk. In fact, we can probably do a key map that will just give you all our schools, all the locations.
Yeah, that'd be easy.
And again, the original budget goes right back to the bond materials that was presented back in 2006.
You made a statement earlier that the fund money accrued per project, for example, Proposition 1, you had 15 million for one school and 15 million the other. If you're under budget for that one bond of 15 million, can the monies that's left over be moved to another proposition, or that's it?
Basically, the way I understand it, before we can move out of proposition, we need to complete the projects.
Got to be
And at that
completed
point in
first.
time, then we have the leeway, yes, we can move outside.
Okay.
But we need to complete these projects as per the bond documents.
And is there any requirements, each line item has a budget that adds up to the 15 million? Is there any liability or requirement if you're over budget on any line item, or are they just looking at the total? We're more concerned about the total 15 million. Okay.
These are just our estimates, and like, again, if we need to move them out,
All right, I just wanna-
administrative budget.
If we are favorable and unfavorable of any line item, if that's something we should be concerned about, and probably the answer would be yes. If
Yes,
we're
you need to be
favorable.
concerned, but again, you're looking at
The total is the key.
And on the very last page, I put a summary of each proposition, the budget, the year-to-date expenditure, encumbrances, and the account status. Account status is available balance that we have.
When you get a order to cut a check, is there somebody that has written